This week's Torah portion is called Parshat Emor. In it, we have a narrative, and we read about a man who is the child of an Israelite woman and of an Egyptian. And I want to take us back into Exodus, if you remember, when Moses, who grew up in the house of Pharaoh, he comes out of the palace and he sees an Israelite being beaten by an Egyptian taskmaster. And if you remember, back in Exodus, Moses, when he sees this and he identifies himself as a Jew and he sees this Egyptian beating a Jew, he kills the Egyptian. The backstory, the medrash to that story, is that this Egyptian had gone into the home of the Israelite that he was beating, and he had had sex with this Israelite's wife. And as he's exiting the house of this Israelite, the Israelite sees him coming out and he confronts him. So this confrontation happens. So the Egyptian is beating the Israelite. Moses comes out, he sees this happening, and he kills the Egyptian. So now, in our Torah portion, we learn about the child of that union, that Egyptian who had the relations with this Israelite woman from the tribe of Dan, and they have a child. They have this man who grows up, and now he's looking to pitch his tent where his mother lives. His mother lives in the tribe, in the camp of the tribe of Dan. As we know that each tribe had their own encampment. All the people who came from the fathers from the tribe of Dan were encamped in the same place, as were all the sons and the grandsons and the lineage from the other tribes. They all pitched their tents in their camps. However, the lineage, the patrilineal descent of where you belong, of your tribe that you belong in, goes by your father. So this poor Israelite, at no fault of his own, has an Egyptian father, and he doesn't belong in the camp of Dan. So when he goes to pitch his tent where his mother lives, and he wants to live there because that's where his mother lives, he is not allowed to live there. And he goes to Moses, and he's asked Moses to advocate for him. And he says, what's the law here? And we read in the Medrash that Moses consults with God, and God says he has to not pitch his tent, he has to go somewhere else. He is angered, he's upset. And we also read in this week's Torah portion that he has an altercation with another member of the tribe of Dan. So perhaps, and it's all, we only have a little bit of what's in the text, and we have a lot of commentary, but perhaps the way in which the people of the tribe of Dan dealt with this man who is not allowed to pitch his tent in the place where his mother lives, that he has to go pitch his tent somewhere else. How do we deal with people who don't fit in, who don't belong? How do we help them? Are we kind to them? Are we compassionate to them? And raising questions. The law given to Moses by God was that he couldn't pitch his tent there. He wants to pitch his tent there. He's angry. And the response of the members of the tribe of Dan might be something that we can learn from. Because what happens is that this man is so angered, perhaps by the way he's treated by the other people, perhaps by the ruling that God metes out to him, but he uses his words to blaspheme God. He curses God. And that's not okay. Unraveling the fabric of the world, he curses God, and for that there's very negative consequences. So there's two things I want to bring out here. One is how to operate when things don't seem fair to us. Earlier on in this week's Torah portion, we learn about the priests, we learn about the Kohanim, and there were certain Kohanim, certain priests, who were not allowed to function in the temple and bring the sacrifices. If they had a blemish, if they were lame, or if they were blind, or various other physical blemishes, they were not allowed to serve and bring the sacrifices in the temple. They could eat from the offerings, but they couldn't do the service, they couldn't do the work. We don't hear about them complaining. We hear about them accepting that, perhaps. Again, we don't read the backstory. But in this situation where we have this son of the Israelite woman and the Egyptian man who isn't allowed to pitch his tent in the camp, and he doesn't belong. And perhaps we could look at the way in which the other members of the tribe of Dan deal with him and treat him. Are they kind to him? Do they commiserate with him? Are they compassionate with him? Do they help him? Do they say, well, we'll help you pitch your tent wherever it is that you're allowed to pitch your tent. We'll come with you. We love you. We embrace you. We're sorry that you can't live in our camp. We'll come with you. Or do they fight? Are they angry? Are they strict and operating with a judgmental behavior towards the other? And what role do other people play? We have this concept of Chilul Hashem and Kiddush Hashem, that when we behave in good ways and compassionate ways and loving ways, that we bring the name of God up in a high way. And people say, you know, there goes somebody who believes in God. There goes somebody who is a Kiddush Hashem, who is representing God in a good way. But we also have the capacity to be people who bring a negative name to God when we act in bad ways, when we do bad things, when we hurt other people, when we do things that are stealing and that are really like against the way we should be in the world, that we bring a negative name to God by the way we behave. And I think that this week's Torah portion, when we read about the blasphemer, the person who curses God because he's angry that he's not allowed to pitch his tent, or because he's angry at the way other people are treating him. I think if we focus on the way in which other people treat him, it's a good message for us from this week's Torah portion. The final thought that I want to bring out is the use of words. So the blasphemer, with his anger, curses God, and that is a very not okay thing to do with our words. But we also learn about the Kohanim, about the priests, and they use their words to bless, to bring divine blessing into the world. They bless the Jewish people, and even today, the Kohanim, the priests, are the people, and in Israel they do it every day, and outside of Israel in traditional synagogues they do it on various different times on the holidays. Go up onto the bima, go up in front of the Holy Ark and turn and bless the people and bring divine blessing to the Jewish people using their words, that God should shine his face upon us, that God should deal kindly and compassionately with us, that God should bring us peace. And through the words, these divine blessings come into the world. So I want to use the example of the blasphemer in this week's Torah portion, and not to excuse what he did and how he used his words in an extremely negative way that had an extremely negative consequence for him, but to shine a light on the way in which the people that surrounded him, that perhaps could have softened the blow of the divine ruling, that the divine ruling was that you can't pitch your tent where your mother lives because your father's an Egyptian, because you don't have a tribal lineage because your father was an Egyptian, that ruling that perhaps did come from God, can't be changed, but the way in which we respond to our fellow and how we treat them and how we help them and bring love to them perhaps could mitigate the negative feelings that this person had for a ruling that is very hard for them to accept. So my blessing for us is that we use our words in good ways, that we bring blessing to each other, that we bless each other, use our words to bless each other, and to use our words to help in the journey that we are all on. And just as the Kohen who has a blemish can't serve in the temple in the same way that the other priests can serve, and seem to accept that job, that's his situation in life, and not complain and not be angry and not lash out. So too, I wonder how much we have to accept our situations, and we have to say, okay, that I have these constrictions and I have these life situations, and I might want to be what the other person is, or I might want to have what the other person has, but I have what I have, and this is the way I connect myself to God. This is the way I connect myself to the Jewish people. This is the way I connect myself to the world and to my own soul, and what it is that I have to bring into the world is all individualized. And I might want to pitch my tent in the tribe of Dan, and I might want to bring the sacrifices on the altar just like my brothers do, but my role is this is my role, whatever it is that I have, and to come to terms with that on some way, and to for other people to help me in that journey. So I bless us that we have other people to help us in our journey, and that when things seem unfair or we don't know what to do, that we have ways to help each other to live our lives in the fullest way possible.